Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in on today's video. Today's video is going to be, once again, all about personality types, broadly speaking, introversion and extroversion. And it's going to tie into my last video that I made, because in my last video, I discussed the parts of the brain that are responsible for distinguishing an introvert from an extrovert and ways in which we can help fight our nature, aka our genetic makeup that makes us an introvert or an extrovert. And so in today's video, I am going to be getting into whether or not we actually should stretch ourselves, even though we can. Because here's the thing, I said this in my last video, so let me just recap. We have this thing called the amygdala. The amygdala is in our brain, and it is responsible for picking up the information that is around us and telling the rest of the brain how to respond. But the thing that differentiates an introvert from an extrovert is how sensitive that person's amygdala is. If you're an introvert, typically you have a very sensitive and reactive nervous system. So you are literally on a biological level more sensitive to the information that is around you, making you elicit and evoke a more emotional response to situations that you perceive as being threatening, right? So if you're about to enter a party where you know nobody, the amygdala is the part of the brain that is making you feel scared and frightened and anxious about walking into that party and meeting somebody new that you don't even know. Whereas the neocortex is the part of the brain that is responsible for soothing those unwanted fears, for telling yourself, hey, you have nothing to fear or worry about. That last party you went to, yeah, remember when no one told you that you are ugly to your face, that you're weird to your face? And oh, guess what? The same thing happened at the other party that you went to that was similar to this one you're about to go to, where you didn't really know a lot of people. So there is data to prove that you are just all in your head. So get out of your own way. You are literally thinking of reality that is not even true. There is no data to support this reality that's in your head. So stop it. So that part of the brain is responsible for decision making. And the issue though is that introverts who have a more sensitive nervous system, a more reactive amygdala, can fake being an extrovert and can get better at being more outgoing and sociable. But the thing is, we are always going to have our amygdala, and the amygdala is always in a way more dominant than the neocortex because it has a lifetime of associations between heights and anxiety, strangers and anxiety, because it's part of our genetic makeup. So we always have to be in the process, especially if you're an introvert, in talking our way out of being fearful, all right? And saying positive affirmations to yourself and talking your way out of feeling fearful and anxious about a situation you are perceiving as threatening, because this does help beef up that neocortex and helps make you a more stronger and confident individual over time. But that amygdala is always going to be there. So we are always going to have to talk to ourselves, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. So we can stretch ourselves. But in this video, it's going to touch into whether or not we actually should stretch ourselves within the limits that we're capable of stretching ourselves, okay? I think we should attempt to manipulate our personalities within the range that is available to us. Why? Well, let's get into the free trait theory. The free trait theory suggests that there are fixed personality traits that are innate with us, that are tied to our biology, but we also have something called free traits, traits that we choose to adopt, traits that are not directly in line with our character because these traits are in service of core personal projects. So if you are tempted to change and manipulate your behavior and wear a mask, if you will, for a situation that will help you achieve a bigger goal that you want, that is tied to a good, genuine value and intention, then yeah, I think you should manipulate your behavior. And if you're an introvert, how do you get good at this? Well, you need to take advantage of a skill that you're naturally good at, which is observing, right? Because introverts, since we're typically more reserved, quiet, and shy, we spend a lot of time observing. So literally make mental notes about how extroverts move their bodies, their mannerisms, their facial expressions, their witty remarks that they say. You need to study social dynamics, and you need to put this skill that you have, observing, to good use. I think that the additional effort that is required to stretch your natural self is justified if you are trying to see a project that you are working on, a core personal project, come into fruition. Now, people might think that such inauthenticity is morally ambiguous, but if it's in service of a good value, a good intention, like love, then I think it's morally justified. But here's where it becomes very problematic and where I think you shouldn't act out of character. If you are acting out of character and putting on a mask in service of a project that you don't actually genuinely care about, then you shouldn't act out of character. You shouldn't wear this mask, because deep down, you know that this behavior isn't justified, because your intuition is going to tell you that this isn't right for you, that you are literally doing something that is not in line with your higher self, not in line with the path and the course that you are meant to be on. Your intuition and your psyche will nag you that your pseudo extroversion needs to be supported by deeper values, by a strong foundation, not a weak foundation that is made from weak values. Because if it is tied to shallow values, well, then what's going to happen is that you are going to fall into a trap of self-negation. It becomes you putting on a mask because you think there is fundamentally something wrong with who you are as a person, not because the task at hand requires a different orientation for you to be more in line with achieving a bigger goal for yourself that is in line with your higher self. Self-negation could look like telling yourself the route to success is just being somebody I'm not. Where self-monitoring could look like realizing that you need to change your orientation just for a bit in order to fulfill something that you really passionately, deeply care about. And then once this task is done, you can simply go back to being who you really are. You just need to wear that mask for a bit. But because it's tied to a deep, genuine value, you realize that, it's a sacrifice worth making. That's my thoughts. I think that you should act out of character sometimes in exchange for being your true self most of the time. Sometimes you really do need to do these things in order to fulfill a bigger goal that you have for yourself. So once again, you can get good at acting out of character by studying people, observing their mannerisms, their behaviors, their facial movements, expressions, etc. And also by memorizing how your body responds and reacts when you're feeling really confident, and replicating that when you aren't feeling confident. Because here's the thing, the physical is the mental and vice versa, okay? When you stand tall and you literally make your body so that you are like a superhero. Have you seen that TikTok where that girl's like this, where you're like physically confident and mentally you're not there yet? Over time, eventually, that physical representation of being confident will catch up with the mental. Now, also, I'm going to close this video off by saying that the best way to act out of character is to actually stay true to who you really are. So you need to resort back to your happy place if you are feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed by the stimuli that is around you. This could be meditating, or I know in one of my meditative practices, it's like tapping into the heart center, and in the audio, the guy's like, you can always go back to this place whenever you want. And it's true. Because I've done that meditation so many times, that feeling just sticks with me, where if I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, I can just go to a little spot that's secluded and breathe in, breathe out. That was a bad breath work exercise, but I'm trying to speed up this video, and hold on to my heart and resort back to that meditative state and kind of be back at homeostasis, okay? So have those little hideaways or those places that you go either mentally or physically that help you get back to homeostasis. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you agree with me that it's not morally wrong to manipulate your persona in order to achieve a goal that is tied to a good intention and a good value. Because like I said, certain situations do call for it, and we can fine tune our personality, so we might as well take advantage of it if it's in service of a core personal project. But if you disagree with me, if you do think it's morally wrong, then let me know down in the comments. Either way, I'd like to know your feedback, and I'll see you next video. Thank you.